Everybody, I forgot to do one very important thing because Stacy and I were having such a good conversation. So you're going to see me, and I'm going to put her in the big picture for when she says all the cool things. And now I'm going back to us. Hello! It is a beautiful, dreary, slow Tuesday, and it's just what I need. So I hope it is what you need too. But I can tell you what we all need. A little bit of Stacy Cross in our lives.
I need you. I love coming on with you guys. Good to see you all. Sort of.
And you said it's kind of dreary where you are too, right?
Very dreary, and it's cold and it's gray, and that's why I look a little darker than normal. I apologize. I need to get some fancy. We were just talking about how much I need some light on me. I don't have any fancy lights or anything.
I think she looks gorgeous. That's the reason I always say I'm not just white, I'm transparent because I am so white and pale that it's almost you can sort of see it on my arm, right? Do you see the shining thing where you're a little blinded by that?
You look nice and warm and tropical right now. The lighting is really working. You look amazing. I look cold and dead and wintry. And I actually have more of a warmer skin tone, like olive skin, but it's not showing up right now. That's okay. This is what we get. You get what you get and you don't have a fit, right?
It's okay. And I think it's kind of good because I know you're in Texas, and while I'm not trying to discount the coldness that you're experiencing, I'm in North Carolina. I am also more in the not as cold as the coldest places, but it's been pretty cold here. I took a walk, when was it? Friday? It was whenever you and I talked. I was having a bad day. I was feeling cranky, so I'm like, take myself out for a walk. And I have these giant mittens I got when we were in Massachusetts. They're Nike, but seriously, they look like polar bear hands. They're so big. They don't really look like polar bear hands, or I would have to show you because that would be the best. But seriously, they're just giant. And I'm wearing those, and my fingers were still cold. With the wind chill, it was like 19 or 20 degrees. And I'm like, I'm walking my 3 miles. I don't care.
Honey, it was colder here in Texas that day. So we got all the way down to 18, 17, but our feels like temps were 4, 5, 6 degrees Fahrenheit. It was insane. And none of us have clothing for that. In Texas, nobody has, unless you go snow skiing frequently or something, nobody has even a proper winter coat here. So when it gets that cold, none of us know what to do with ourselves. It's terrible.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And we'll figure this out in a minute. I was hearing it through my AirPods, and then it switched. So I don't know if you guys are hearing some little things in the background or not, but I will fix that in a moment. And it is really cold. And I think winter is hard sometimes. And I know I have more, and I don't know if this is the right word, Stacy, food cravings. It's not really food. I'm hungry. It gets cold and I feel hungry. And just so everybody knows, we're doing kind of a Mary's Mini, which is to be renamed Starch Reset. So I can make up my own rules a little bit. Just so we have one set of rules, really, which is do what you want to do and eat a little bit better. But this is my breakfast. I have some barbecue sauce that I made in class, it's made from tomato paste and stuff. And I cooked up some baby potatoes, and I just sliced them up and stuck them in the air fryer while I was getting ready to talk to you. And I knew there would be some moments that I can have a snack while we're doing this. But I think when it feels cold, sometimes people feel like, oh, they want to eat bad foods or eat more of things. But it's also kind of, I'm trying to have potatoes for all my meals for the next few days, which is such a hardship. Not. To me, that's why I picked the Dr. McDougall starch solution to begin with, is because, in my opinion, with, other people may have certain health conditions that create different possibilities for them, but the fact that I can eat all the potatoes I want, I got mashed potatoes in there. I could do twice baked potatoes. I took hash browns and put them in a panini press. Like, Stacy and I were talking about fancy foods a little while ago. Like, I'm seriously like, I'm having my goblin potato era this week, which, if you guys aren't hip on the TikTok, that means lazy. That's the new way to say lazy. That y'all know I was in the Zoom call in my pajamas yesterday. I dressed up, but I didn't do anything hard. So what would you say for people who are maybe also, seasonal sad disorder, I'm not even going to try and say it, evidently, is real, and people are feeling that, and then when you get that, and the gray days, and the cold, and the hunger, do you have some suggestions for that?
Yes. So what happens oftentimes is people do feel that increase in hunger, increase of desire for comfort foods, um, increase in desire for heavier foods, heartier foods. They start to panic. They go, oh my gosh, what is this? This is coming out of nowhere. I don't know what to do. And they're thinking about things like, giant casseroles and macaroni and cheese and, tons of bread and things like that. I just encourage my patients that come through the program to lean in to those desires, but meet them with McDougall compliant foods. So yes, mashed potatoes are great. Stews, soups, chilies are all fantastic this time of year. As long as you're listening to your body and you're eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're comfortably full, you can have 6 bowls of soup throughout the day. You know what I mean? It's just, there's no limit on you telling you can't have comfort food. You definitely can. So much of what we eat is that comfort food. And you can, and Kathy is fabulous about this, is you can recreate some of your favorites from maybe when you were a kid or growing up, comfort foods, and you can recreate them in the McDougall style very easily, almost anything. So, I just got over the flu, everybody. I had the flu.
Oh.
Yes. My children are a blessing from the Lord, and sometimes they come home with some germs from school, and so we all caught the flu from our eldest little darling. And I just ate potatoes. I mean, well, for one thing, for a couple of days, I didn't feel like eating anything. But then as soon as my appetite returned, it really returned. And I even had that moment where I thought, oh my gosh, this is like overwhelming. How do I keep up with this desire for food? And so I just went, well, of course, I immediately thought, I know exactly what to do. I just eat my food. I eat my normal food. And so I did. And it's, tamed down and settled down some. But this time of year, just be kind to yourself and give your body what it's asking for. And just try to do the really healthy McDougall way, and you'll be just fine. You're not going to pack on winter weight from eating mashed potatoes and golden gravy or, vegan chili and, any of Kathy's recipes that I'm sure you all are enjoying this time of year. So.
And I think we've talked about this before, and I say this all the time, is that it's just so reasonable. And what we expect, and I think what a lot of us expect of ourselves, because, and I told everybody in the Zoom, I haven't had a live in a little while, but the reason I was talking to Stacy is I had my own hiccup. I had my own doubts about what I was doing there for a second. There's so much information out there. And I know I say this every time we go live. And Cheryl is still a little sick, but she's in another meeting. So that's why she's not here. I know I'm going to get questions about that. But I think it's just really easy to have these doubts. You look on the internet and you see Dr. Greger is doing this, Dr. McDougall is doing that, Dr. Estelson is doing this. And there's nothing, this is not me having judgments about that. However, for me and Cheryl, and I think most of you, it's really easy to start with one set of rules instead of trying to put together 17 sets of, and rules are maybe lists of things that you should do is better. How do you feel about that, Stacy?
Well, I usually call them guidelines because a lot of people are really triggered by the word rule. Um, but I just feel like pick one and go with it. And honestly, I mean, I, of course, well, I shouldn't say of course. I mean, I'm completely bought into the McDougall way of eating, and it's not just because they're the ones who sign my paycheck. I really believe in this way of eating for life. I think it's the most sustainable, graceful, enjoyable way to try to live as a person who's going to eat and trying to be healthy for the rest of your life. But having said that, if McDougall is not the way you're landing on, that, let's say you've decided you want to do a nutritarian diet, Joel Furman, okay, Dr. Furman, I know there are a lot of people who follow that diet and seem to enjoy it. And if that's what you've decided, go for it. Esselstyn, not very different really at all from McDougall. But if that's the direction you want to go for it. If you want to follow Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen and that's fun for you, now listen to what I'm saying. If it's fun for you, go for it. If it's burdensome for you or overwhelming, whether it be Greger, McDougall, whatever, then it might not be the best place to land. But pick one is the best advice I can give you. Pick one and really allow yourself to relax and rest in the guidelines that are provided. You all have heard me say before, it's sort of a trust fall when you come over to McDougall and you hear our guidelines and we tell you what to do and you do it. There's a bit of a letting go, because so much of diet culture and our diet mindset is based on the idea that we're in control. Well, if you just control what you put in your mouth, you'll be skinny. If you just control how many calories you're eating, you'll lose weight. If you don't control how many calories you're eating, you're going to gain weight. It's just you're in control all the time. And in essence, obviously that is the case. Nobody pins you down and stuffs food in your face or slaps it out of your hand or any of that kind of stuff. So you do make the final call about what goes in your mouth and what doesn't. But after that, after we've given you the guidelines of the McDougall diet and have shown you the way, which is stupid simple, then at some point you do have to just let go and just do it. We see people all the time in analysis paralysis. People who have been following Dr. McDougall for 20, 30 years, they know the program back and forth. But unfortunately, they have never really done the trust fall into it. They've never really given themselves over to it and really done it. And as I always say, you guys probably get tired of all the things I say repeatedly, but there's knowing and there's doing, and they are not the same. And most people now are at the point where they haven't done yet. They know quite a bit and they haven't done. And so I always try to just give you a little push over the ledge, like, go.
I love that. I don't know if you saw in the comments, Apple was like, I love Stacy's eye roll with this topic. And she means it in the best way, but it's like, sometimes it is hard when you hear, I can only imagine for you, because I definitely see people fall into some similar pitfalls, and I feel for them, but I'm not like counts or being a support specialist. I'm never going to get your title right. I'm going to be 90 calling you all these different things. Just so you know, it's just like my hero, Stacy. That's what I should just keep saying. My personal support, Stacy. It's just that, there's always a little bit of like, you hear these things again and you see, and you want to stop the people from going into the giant hole that they're heading towards. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I appreciate you so much is you're so kind and gentle about that kind of, no, let's just go a little over here. And
Yeah.
I hear that, and I think we all love, and I know Apple and me and everything too is just how real you are too. And I think that that is just super helpful, super refreshing about everything. And it also, for me, I can tell you this as a client. It makes it so much easier for me to take in what you're saying because I don't feel like you're filtering it in a way, and it just means a lot. So sorry to get all like super heavy and everything, but it really does. And I think picking one thing, and we've been talking about this because I've told all of y'all, and I've told Stacy that I was kind of sorry I did the Mary's Mini just because it brought up so much minutia. Everybody was like, but can I have this starch? Can I do it? You know, it's like, no, this is supposed to be relaxed. We're supposed to be like curious about our bodies. And one of the stories that I've been telling is about Cheryl and I coming into the 12-day McDougall program. So we came in as an experiment. And I think even if you guys are just starting to do whatever it is, Dr. Greger, you're doing Dr. McDougall, or you're just like, hey, I'm just trying not to have meat this week. Great. Whatever your goals are, let them be your goals. And be curious. Pay attention. Are your ankles less swollen? Are they more swollen? Do you have a little more energy? Did you need to nap more? What are, so, and Stacy, I know you've encouraged us to do this as well, but I think sometimes we get caught up on, okay, I've printed out all the rules, and I do agree with you, rules is real triggering. Because if it's a rule, I'm just automatically going to break something. So that's how I am. I can say the word, but I'm not going to do them. And we're like, so I don't think I can eat as much greens as Dr. Estelston wants me to eat, or I don't think I can do these 12 things every single day. And instead of doing that, just picking one thing, if you're not ready to jump into a program, pick one thing that you think, I might feel better if I didn't eat that as much, or right? And then just be curious about how it changes your body. And I say this too because I have a friend who started eating forks over knives, and my questions to her were, do you feel any different? Do you notice a difference? And her answer was, what do you mean? How would I feel different? And y'all know me, I'm like into every tiny little bit of everything. I'm feeling all the feels and processing them. And if I haven't processed them yet, I feel bad about not processing them. So I think that it can be really hard to pay attention to your body. And Stacy, I know that you end up helping coach people through these kind of things. So if someone's having trouble or not noticing, do you have some tips for that?
Yeah, I think the biggest tip I would say is it's not something that you will master at some point. It's not like a light switch that you can turn on self-awareness and turn off self-awareness in terms, and when I'm talking about self-awareness, I'm talking about awareness of your body's hunger and fullness cues. I mean, there's obviously all kinds of self-awareness that we all exercise in varying degrees. But with regard to your hunger and your fullness, it is a thing that we practice and we improve upon all the time. I just the other day I was talking to a patient who said, I cannot get it. I cannot stop eating past the point of fullness. They were so discouraged and downtrodden about the whole thing, and they were like, I'm never going to get this. And I said, first of all, that's stinking thinking. Don't say stuff like that. You will get it, but you have to practice it every day, and you have to have grace for the fact that you're gonna mess it up sometimes. For example, I did that just the other day. I was eating totally healthy, completely McDougall plan food, nothing wrong with it at all whatsoever, except that it just tasted a little too good and I didn't want to stop. And so I ate past the point of fullness, and then I felt bad. And I thought, ooh, I haven't felt that way in a really long time. one decade ago, I would have been like mad at myself. And I probably would have let it catapult me into some weird like binge thing where it's like, well, I've already done it. I might as well just go ahead and eat a bunch of Oreos or something. You know how that is.
And that's totally the common thing, though. I think that's what self sabotages people more than anything else. To feeling bad that you did one tiny thing. I ate too many potatoes, so I feel bad.
Yes.
So now I'm going to really do what I really said I wouldn't do.
Right. Instead of just looking at the situation and going, oh, this is a data point that I can gain some information from. I ate, 3 potatoes. I'm just giving an example. I ate 3 potatoes tonight and I got over full. Tomorrow night, I'll have 2.5. Who cares? Big darn deal. It's like it's not earth shattering and you haven't blown it. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just that sometimes we get distracted or we don't pay close enough attention or it sneaks up on us, fullness. And you have not failed. So I would say for me personally, like my personal weight loss journey, one of the biggest game changers for me has been practicing radical self-love and acceptance that every mistake and misstep is a potential opportunity to learn and grow and get better, and that I'm not expecting perfection of myself anymore. And I mean, it's been revolutionizing like my whole life. I'm turning now to other areas of my life and going, where am I expecting perfection from myself that I need to let that go? It's pretty amazing.
That is amazing. And thank you for sharing that with us too, because I think one of the pitfalls we get into as people is we look at somebody else and we're like, they have what we want. So therefore, everything we want, they have. So not that you have $1 million and you have the best clothes and you have the best shoes because you're at the weight that I am hoping to one day obtain. And I think that's one thing that I try to do for cooking is to let people know. People are like, well, you have a bunch of cookbooks. I'm like, yeah, I make a bunch of mistakes. That's how I make those cookbooks, right? And, I think it can be really helpful. Now, there's 2 things that I'm seeing around that I want to maybe ask you about, and then I know we want to talk about a little more, and I forget the exact wording that we talked about the other day. I think it was unconscious overconsumption.
Oh, yes.
Is that the right word?
Overconsumption.
Passive.
Mm-hmm.
And but I'm seeing Kathy Kendrick is saying that she's coming off a 5-day fast, wanting to go vegan. She's tried many times and can't seem to keep up. And the community is helping too, because like we're mentioning Mary's Mini a bunch, which is like, I will say how I describe it and then you can correct me. So like the starch solution is the main big thing. And honestly, it's what Stacy told me to do from the get-go, and it's what I've done the whole time. And it's lovely. It's the least restrictive. I think other than it being vegan, the only main no is coconut. So there's no oils. Oh, well, sorry. I just assumed oils. So no, it's like vegan, no oils, no coconut. But that means you can have other things depending on your goals. So then we go to maximum weight loss, which I haven't done, which is kind of a little more restrictive and not meant for long term, is my understanding. And Mary's Mini is just kind of like, feel guilty that I went on vacation. I'm going to reset my taste buds, or maybe I'm like, that's how we do it. I'm sure that's not how Stacy will tell you to do it. Or like just to reset your taste buds. Or honestly, when we were looking at it, when we don't feel well, we kind of go to it because it's simple. It's one starch all day long for 10 days. You're not supposed to be hungry. It's not restrictive. It's not let's eat salad until we lose 4 pounds or anything like that. And it's just about resetting your taste buds. And I know that you did not recommend it to me when I first started. And I was wondering, because then Kathy was also then saying, well, maybe what I need is Mary's Mini. I suspect that your answer is going to be no, that may not be what you need. So I'm going to let you talk to both of those.
Okay. Well, first of all, Kathy, welcome. Welcome. And I'm so glad that you landed here with Kathy and Cheryl. What a wonderful community and this incredible community of people here to support you. And I would say hang in there. I will say one quick thing to someone who is a brand new vegan. Uh, I will address the biggest mistake that I see them make that usually ends their vegan journey, which is they do not recognize that they're going to have to eat differently than they did before they went plant based. So, when we're specifically talking about a plant based diet as opposed to a vegan diet, so a vegan diet can still include things like highly processed foods, kind of vegan junk foods, the vegan burgers, and all that stuff because they have a lot of they have things in them like oils, vegetable oils, lots of added sugar, lots of added salt, higher fat, higher calorie density things that are taste amazing, but wouldn't necessarily be included on like the McDougall diet for sure, but also more of like a plant-based diet where a whole foods plant-based diet where we're really trying to consume whole natural plant foods like potatoes, rice, corn, quinoa, even more processed ones like whole grain breads, popcorn, some crackers, things like that. That would be more like a whole foods plant-based diet. So you've got your vegan diet that still contains a lot of very high calorie density foods and vegan junk foods, things like that. And then you have a whole foods plant-based diet that doesn't usually have some of those extra things. So the mistake, sorry, long thing, because I never know what people's background is, but the mistake that I see people make when they go vegan or plant-based is that they don't realize that plants are so much lower in calorie density than all the other foods that they were eating, like the animal products and highly processed products, fast food, things like that, fried foods. So they eat portion sizes that look the same as what they used to eat. So they may think, oh, my dinner should fit on this little plate right here and everything should not be touching because that's kind of about how much food I needed before. And so they systematically and unintentionally undereat because everything on our plate, if you're looking at potatoes or rice or salad greens or green beans or apples, whatever it is so low in calorie density that unless you eat greater volumes of food, you aren't going to get the calories you need to function. So then people do this vegan diet or plant-based diet for a couple of weeks and they go, I have no energy. My hair's falling out. I feel like garbage. I can't sleep. Like they have like a laundry list of symptoms that they're having. And it's because they have been inadvertently under eating. But instead of understanding that, they go, it's the vegan diet. I'm not getting enough protein. I'm not getting enough calcium or whatever it is. And then they just quit. They quit. So that's why when you look at like national guidelines for dietary excellence and health outcomes and whatnot, they always say that a well-planned vegan or vegetarian diet is perfectly acceptable and great. But the well planned is an important part, and it that doesn't mean that it's not simple. It's very simple once you've got the plan, but the plan needs to be that you're eating as much volume of these plant foods as you need to be comfortably full and satiated. You shouldn't be walking around being, starving and like having no energy. That means you're not getting enough calories. But to answer your question, I don't think you need a Mary's Mini. If I were you, Kathy, I would run out and get the Starch Solution book or get it on Audible or audio book. I the first time I listened to it on audio from the library. I borrowed it from the library and I listened to it twice. And it's so good. So grab the Starch Solution because what that does is it lays the foundation of everything that we're claiming is the way that humans should be eating and the reasons why. It's a scientific basis and backing of it all. So you'll learn all of that. Then we tell you how to do it practically. And then the Starch Solution book ends with a ton of our most popular recipes. So that's what I would do. And then I would just follow the regular starch solution to begin with. And then we can progress, like Kathy Hester just described. We progress through the different iterations of the McDougall diet based on what we need at that time. So Kathy has mentioned to you guys several times that I didn't recommend she do the Mary's Mini or Maximum Weight Loss to begin with. And the reason was because I was basing that off of, she had shared with me, her diet history, how she was feeling about food, how she was feeling some trepidation about going through the McDougall program to begin with, and how she had felt so restricted in the past with the diet that she had been eating. And because she still has a significant amount of weight that she's trying to lose, she probably doesn't need to be eliminating as much as is eliminated for Maximum Weight Loss or Mary's Mini. I just wanted her to settle into the regular way of eating a starch-centered diet with no animal products and oil. I wanted her to settle into that and really hone in on that skill, really enjoy eating that way, lose some weight, because you definitely can lose weight on the regular plan. And then over time, as we need to move more in the direction of maximum weight loss, we will. But for now, I'm not going to take stuff away from her unnecessarily. If she's happy with the rate of her weight loss, we're good. At some point, we will move more towards maximum weight loss, and she knows that. As she gets in a smaller and smaller body, she's going to require fewer and fewer calories to get all the same things done in the day. As you are a smaller person, you burn less calories. And so then we'll start looking at what can we change up in her diet to get that going. But sorry, I know that I'm talking for a really long time, but Kathy, can I say one more thing about this? Okay, good. The last thing I wanted to say is Kathy did a really excellent job of delineating for us all, the differences between the regular starch, the full McDougall starch solution diet, maximum weight loss, and Mary's Mini. Like they're three separate things, which most people see them as three separate things. I have a little bit of a different view of them, having worked with people very closely as they're going through all three of these over the last several years. And I see them more like you move in and out of them. They're not like little individual houses where you go in the front door and you spend some time in that house, and then you come out and you go over here and you spend some time in that house. I see them more like rooms within a house that you can go into and out of as needed to address whatever your particular goal is at that moment. So let's say, for example, I normally eat let's say, for example, I normally eat maximum weight loss because I'm just giving an example. Let's say I'm like 5'7" and I weigh, 140 pounds. Okay. So that a person at 5'7" and 140 pounds is already well within the healthy BMI range for their height and weight. And so if they are trying to lose weight, it's probably coming off like slower than molasses, and they don't have a lot of wiggle room. But let's say they're going to go on vacation for 3 days. They're just taking a quick little 3-day weekend, but they're not going to have access to all their normal maximum weight loss foods because they're out and about in the world. There's not just always a potato available. So then I would advise them, hey, just lean back into the regular McDougall plan for your 3-day weekend or your vacation or whatever, and just enjoy some bread and maybe enjoy a little bit more, maybe have some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, like things that for maximum weight loss, they wouldn't be doing, but they may need to do that for this weekend. And it can go the other direction too. But anyway, I want you to see it more like these are tools in your tool belt. You make them work for you. You don't work for them. And that's a mistake I see people make a lot, where they are so like, well, but Mary's Mini says that I can only have, 2 fruits a day. But I want 3 fruits. Why can't I have 3 fruits? I want two, yeah, and then somebody else comes along and is like, oh, actually, it's only one fruit. And then somebody else is like, I heard it's none fruits. And it's like, it doesn't matter what the program says, actually. It doesn't matter. If Dr. McDougall sat down and wrote it himself and signed Dr. John McDougall, you still get to choose how you do it. This is your life. You get to choose. You make it work for you, not the other way around. And if you're not getting the results you want, then you tweak as you go. But this is you. You get to decide, not Dr. McDougall, not Kathy, not Stacy. I hope that helped.
Oh my
Really
God.
long-winded. I'm
Okay, so
sorry.
you guys couldn't see, so like I made the heart sign and I went, yes. So like I'm super fired up by all this, and I think it rings so true for me, because someone who doesn't love following rules, who likes to check in and see how things feel, because I think it's not talked about the way you just talked about it very much. You know, we're like, and I say, you know, stay true to your reason for making this change. If it's vegan for the animals, plant-based for health, plant-based for the environment, I don't care. It's not my business. And that helps you keep to it. But again, it's such a unique way to put that you can still do this, and you don't have to obsess about it. It doesn't have to become your minute-to-minute thought of, ooh, you know, I just had a taste for something that wasn't McDougall friendly, so I'm a bad person. It just leans into this stuff where you start judging yourself, and it doesn't help. So no, I was so glad you talked a long time for a bunch of reasons, but hearing all your goodness was reason number one. Max had to go potty and Cheryl is in the meeting, so that was reason number two. I was like, ooh, please don't let her ask me a question while I'm gone. So sorry, guys. I think this could be pulled in, and Jeremy, hopefully you're still on and you can help it. Jeremy's a friend of mine. And so the question sort of is interested in the challenges of weighing more on the scale and hunger cues if stomach grumbling, frustrating. So I'm translating that a little bit to, I'm wondering if he's just generally hungry, you know, so his hunger cues are saying eat more, but the scale, it seems like, is going up a little bit. And if I'm not translating this right, Jeremy, I'm going to go peek down at the bottom too to see if there's more clues.
Yeah, I think I would like a little more information. In the meantime, while you're checking in with him, may I just address one quick thing I saw in the comments? Okay. So someone commented, I'm so glad to hear this confirmation. This is what I do, a little McDougall, a little Furman, a little Greger, etc., and design my own program, and it works. Okay. That's not exactly what I meant. And I will say, if that's working for you, you've done that and that is working for you, I am never going to tell you stop doing the thing that's working for you. But there's a danger, maybe not for you in particular, and a lot of it probably has to do with personality and how much time we have, right? But there's a little bit of a danger when we're listening to lots of different voices that are saying even subtle contradictory things. I'll give you an example. So Dr. Furman and Dr. McDougall both have great diets that if you followed either one, you would likely have really fantastic, amazing health. But we do sometimes have people come and they're trying to follow Furman and they're trying to follow McDougall, and in small little ways, they're contradictory. So it makes it almost impossible. So if you're trying to follow each one completely, to follow them both. So we have people who are coming in on Furman and they're like, I really want to keep eating like lots of nuts. And I also feel like, you know, I can't eat potatoes because they're not the preferred, you know, food. I need to be eating more beans, but I can only have a certain amount. And we're like, well, then it's not a starch-centered diet, you know? And so they can be contradictory, which you may not feel the contradiction inside yourself necessarily when you're trying to follow them both, but it ends up causing you to be confused when you're making food decisions. And so I've seen people actually get stuck on weight loss or health goals because they didn't realize they were trying to do two different things that didn't line up. I hope I'm saying that clearly. But anyway, just be careful when you're doing that, following more than one.
That makes sense to me too, because like there I think if we made a big pie of it, there'd be a lot in the middle that is similar. But like you said, and I think I forget this oftentimes until someone mentions it to me, that Dr. Furman is not necessarily as starch centered as Dr. McDougall.
Not at
Which
all.
in my mind, I have filed it away because I haven't read as much Dr. Furman. I've just filed it all away the same place. So I think that's a good point. And for Linda and some other people too, I think that it does have to do with your personality. If and there's some things I do take a little bit from everyone, but if for me personally, if I'm starting something new to do such a big life change, like the reason I joined Dr. McDougall's 12-day program was because I had fatty liver. So that was a big move on the dial. So before I was like, I felt like I could pick and choose and just see what's going to happen to my body, but I needed to move the liver enzyme number on my test. And so I had more of one, it felt like a giant goal, even though it was a small goal. So I decided it would be easier for me to do my kind of experimentation, putting all my potatoes in one basket, so to say. And I hear Stacy, and I just want to make sure everybody else heard that while some of them may be conflicting, if you're taking the right parts that fit into this perfect puzzle, and if you're doing some of Dr. McDougall, you're probably having a starch-centered diet. Maybe you took from Dr. Furman to add, I don't know, fruit in the morning, or I'm just making stuff up. But like you could pull like little things like that, or like I know that, like Dr. Greger wants you to have G-bombs every day, right? So that's not necessarily
Dr. Furman.
Is it?
That's Dr.
Dang
Furman.
it.
Mm-hmm.
What's
It's okay.
He's the G-bomb guy, and Dr. Greger is the 12 a daily dozen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I get those mixed up all the time. So, adding mushrooms into a Dr. McDougall diet is easy. Into the starch solution, it fits perfectly. So I think that's great. And Jeremy did come back, and he was saying, yes, it is that. He's hungry, and he's gaining weight. So what do you do? Because that is hard. Like if you're not hungry and you're eating and you're gaining weight, you can go, well, perhaps I should eat less.
If I had to guess, and Jeremy, I'm sorry if I'm guessing a lot. I don't have very much information about you to go on, but so I apologize if I'm assuming things that aren't correct. But usually if you are hungry, like not getting enough food, you're not satiated by your food, but you're also gaining weight, it's because the food that you are eating is far too calorie dense. So this is a huge part of why we in the McDougall world limit or eliminate nuts and seeds during weight loss, because nuts and seeds are so delicious and wonderful. They're very calorie dense and they're tiny. And it only takes a tiny little serving of them to put you basically completely eliminate your calorie deficit for the day. So let's say you have to be in a calorie deficit of about 300 calories per day to lose weight. This is just an example. A calorie deficit is the measurement of the difference between how many calories you're burning versus how many calories you're taking in the form of food. So if you're burning 300 more calories than you're eating, then that means you're in a calorie deficit of 300 calories per day. So nuts and seeds can really mess with that because they're so small and they're so calorie dense that if you're hungry and you eat nuts and seeds, you can erase that calorie deficit like that. I mean, it's just so fast. It's so easy to eat 300 calories of nuts, seeds, and nut butters. I mean, it's like so easy, it would make your head spin. So an example of that would be 1 tablespoon of peanut butter is like 100 calories. 1 ounce of nuts is 200 calories. So, and that's about the amount that can fit in the palm of your hand, which very
It's
few
not
of us are stopping at that.
well, and it's not enough that if you're feeling really hungry, that's not
Right.
going to get those. What is it? The receptors. It's not
Right,
going
the
to. So
stretch receptors.
yeah,
Yes.
so it's not going to
Yeah,
trigger those, and
right.
that's one
Yeah.
of the things that I like about potatoes. Besides their potatoes, so like I could have a whole
Mhm.
potato fan club long before I ever started the starch solution, but it.
Right.
One of the first things that we learned in day one, I think, of the 12-day program is about how potatoes are the most satisfying for your feeling of fullness. And, right?
Yes, no, that's true. I mean, I think scientifically they've done studies and they've said that most people rate potatoes as the most satisfying. I always give this little disclaimer to that that everybody's different and some people are like I don't really like potatoes or I'm not that satisfied by potatoes. Rice is a great option. Oatmeal, any of those other options are totally fine even if scientifically the studies don't show that your preferred starch is the very best one for satiety. Like,
Thank you
just,
for that. I'm sorry.
yeah,
I didn't even mean to stir up.
no,
No, but as soon
you
as you said,
didn't.
I
I
was
just
like,
wanted to make
"Ooh, I
sure.
was stirring."
Yeah.
Yeah, because usually I try to clarify things so well, but I just love potatoes. So like, there are very few things I like. Cats and dogs too. I know some of you don't like them, but I don't understand it. I don't understand potatoes, but rice is Cheryl's most preferred starch.
Mhm.
And so she wanted to do rice, but she's not feeling well, so therefore she's eating whatever I make. But I told her I would make rice, just so everyone knows I'm not being mean to Cheryl. But
I feel so
it,
sorry for her. Can you guys all imagine being sick and you don't have anyone but Kathy Hester to cook meals for you? Oh, so awful. Poor Cheryl.
that's awesome. I'm going to rub
I
that
mean,
in
she's
her.
living the dream. My goodness.
She said she heard that. That's awesome.
I love you, Cheryl.
Well, the thing is I'm making her sit on the couch and I'm sitting way in the dining room so that she's not sneezing and coughing on me because I'm fingers crossed. But,
Oh my
and
gosh.
she said she loves you too, Stacy,
Huh.
and everyone. But it's true. I just find there's a starch. I don't know that I've ever met anyone who didn't like any starch. I just don't know that I
Oh
can
no.
physically think about it because I'm like, for me, even though I love potatoes, if I don't feel good, I kick into I want something that tastes sweet. So perhaps in the past I would have done some very non-McDougall-y things when I didn't feel good. But now if I start feeling like maybe I'm catching something, I cook a bunch of sweet potatoes and put them in the fridge.
Mhm.
It makes my emotions happy for having my little sweet. It makes my stomach happy, and my body's like, thank you for giving me something I can actually work with instead of the crap you were a few years ago, right? So it's kind of a
Yes.
win all the way around.
Mhm.
And with Jeremy, he was saying that I got that right. And I'll give you, let's see, okay, since I know Jeremy is not heavy. He doesn't carry, at least from my viewpoint, obviously I'm not weighing him on the scale, but he is not, doesn't have the weight to lose that I do.
Okay.
He is also quite physically active. He bikes and he does dragon
Oh,
boat racing.
honey, I got you, Jeremy. I got
Okay,
you.
does that
Okay,
help?
now I
That
got
helps.
it. Yes, it helps tremendously. So, Jeremy, it's definitely a calorie density thing. So, you are probably eating a lot because your body is probably screaming for food quite a bit because you are expending so many calories from your high level of activity. And so, what you're going to need to do is find a sweet spot where what you're eating has that you're centering it on starches for sure, but that the calorie density is at a level that you feel satisfied by. So here's the experiment I would run if I were Jeremy. Now, ladies, listen up. And I'm sorry to call out the ladies, but it's usually ladies in this situation where you are a lady, maybe middle age or older, in a tiny little body, you're a petite person, maybe 5'2" or lower, shorter. And you just, unfortunately, your body doesn't burn very many calories. Okay. So this experiment that I'm going to encourage Jeremy to do, I am not telling you to do. Okay. Different people. Jeremy is a man. I'm sorry if I'm assuming that you did say he. So Jeremy is a man. He probably has a higher metabolism because of that. He's probably a larger person because of that. He's more active, and he doesn't have a lot of weight to lose. He's very active. Let's not forget that. So the experiment I would tell Jeremy to run is eat only starches, 100% starch for a bit. You can have some fruits and vegetables in there if you really want them for flavor, but I don't want you diluting the calorie density of your whole plant food starches at all. So potatoes, rice, corn, beans, cooked oatmeal, cooked pasta, those are your starches. Okay. And I want you to really eat when you are hungry, and eat until you are satisfied and comfortably full. And then the very next time that you feel hungry, physiologically in your body, you feel hungry, go ahead and eat again without any judgment or hesitation, because your body is telling you it's hungry and you need to listen. And do the same thing, rinse and repeat over and over and over and over again. And let's see what happens to the scale, and let's see what happens to your satiety. But if you've been leaning in a lot to like nuts and seeds, granola bars, energy bars, power bar type things, even compliant ones like Larabars, they are so calorie dense. Larabars will keep weight on you, no problem, all day long. In fact, I have people that are trying to gain weight, and I tell them to eat Larabars, okay, to really help you guys understand like just how Larabars fit into the diet. So Jeremy, if you've been leaning on any of those types of things, dried fruits, nuts and seeds, then those things are very small. They're small, but they pack a lot of calories. And so that may be why you're so hungry. So try to do 100% starches, nearly 100% starches for a period of time, maybe 5 days, something like that, and see what happens to your satisfaction level and to the scale. And please report back. I'd love to hear how it goes.
Love all that information. And I met Jeremy through the plant pod that Elizabeth runs, that I've told you guys about, because she has a virtual meeting as well. So I'll try and put that up again. But they follow Dr. Campbell, like the China study. Mm-hmm. So there is more. And this is my way of thinking of it. May not be yours, but I kind of think of it a little similar to forks over knives. It's a little, yes, it's a little more permissive of higher fat foods, because the goals of these two are not necessarily weight loss, though many people experience weight loss doing those. Would you think, am I close? Pretty close?
Definitely, yes. So I would classify the McDougall diet being starch-centered and low-fat. I would classify it as a disease reversal and obesity reversal diet. So we oftentimes, people who come to us have autoimmune illnesses, heart disease, diabetes, lots of overweight and obesity. And so they're trying to reverse those things. And the way that we reverse those most efficiently and most completely is to put them on a low-fat, starch-centered diet. Once you have lost all your weight and you've kicked all of your medical conditions to the curb, and those things aren't a concern for you anymore, yes, you can maintain your weight while bringing in some of those things, some of those whole plant foods that are health promoting, but maybe a little richer. You can slowly bring those in. But most of the people who come to the McDougall side are here for a reason, not just because they're trying to find the diet that they want to live on for the rest of their lives, which they do, and they can, and you definitely can. I'm living on the McDougall diet right now and doing just fine. But it usually starts with some kind of illness or weight issue that they're trying to address.
I think that happens a lot of times with people going to the whole food plant-based way of eating anyhow. The way I see, and I see vegan and plant-based cross all the time. I started out vegan, now I also am plant-based, so I love animals and myself.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
And I see a
And the
lot of that cross,
planet.
right? It crosses over a little
Hmm.
bit, but I think sometimes people, it seems like people search for whole food plant-based that I see the most in my limited circle are people who are looking either to help themselves with health or to encourage a family member that has a health condition. You know, like I've been trying to get Cheryl to go to the McDougall program before this when she got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and she was not going to do it.
Right.
But then she worried about me being sick, and I'm like, well, you doing it with me. Right? Right?
Yeah.
But it will be very interesting. I'll talk to Jeremy some more too, and if he wants to, maybe next time we talk, we could even talk about some of that. But because I just happen to know him and know how active he is, a lot of times I don't. And speaking of don't, I think we're going to have some follow-up questions for Nancy. But I'm going to put her question up. We've got probably about 15 more minutes, guys. So if you have some questions, please go ahead and put them in, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. I think this conversation is fire, Stacy. Like like seriously, you're blowing my mind and everyone else's. I'm just getting all kinds of amazing comments in here. They're probably flipping too fast for you to see them. But Nancy's saying, would you recommend maximum weight loss to get off a plateau after a 30-pound weight loss? I'm insulin resistant as well, maybe for a few weeks. And
She means do maximum weight loss for a few weeks?
yes.
Okay. Yes, Nancy, that's a great idea. That might, dislodge the weight plateau a little bit. So the reason why maximum weight loss works so well is because everything that's on maximum weight loss is on that lower end of the calorie density scale. So it is those whole natural plant foods. It's very minimally processed things. So even things like bread, tortillas, crackers, popcorn, things that could be completely, totally McDougall compliant, but are more calorie rich, calorie dense, those would not be included on the maximum weight loss plan. But you don't have, and this is more of like kind of what I was saying earlier, where you're making it work for you and it's really like going in and out of rooms in one big house. You don't have to like make some declaration like, I'm going to do maximum weight loss now. What you could do instead is just sort of move in the direction of some of the principles that make maximum weight loss work. So I'm going to choose, instead of having, avocado toast for breakfast, I'm going to choose hash browns instead, knowing that, shredded potatoes, cooked potatoes are going to be much lower in calorie density than bread with avocado. So it's making switches to some of the things you're eating to lower the calorie density of your overall meal. Another way that we do that through maximum weight loss is to add in vegetables and add in fruit. Although I always caution people, I don't want you to interpret that to say like, now I eat, tons of vegetables and a tiny potato, or tons of vegetables and like a quarter cup of rice. No, not at all. You never, ever want the smaller portion of your meal to be starches. Starches are the center. It is a starch-based diet. So starch is your entree. Remember how many of us were raised with meat was the entree and you have your two little sides? Okay, we're just flipping it around a little bit. Well, except we're getting rid of the meat, okay? But the starch, whatever the starch is that you're choosing, that's your entree. And then the sides are vegetables and fruit. Okay, so that's what it is. That's how it's different from how most of us were raised. But all that to say, Nancy, yes, I do think you would benefit, as far as trying to overcome a plateau. First of all, way to go on losing 30 pounds. That's a tremendous weight loss. And that's right about the point that I see people plateau. And just to make sure everybody understands what a plateau is, There are several factors that can cause a plateau, but most often what I see is it comes down to the fact that that person is in a significantly smaller body, and so they're burning fewer calories. So a person who is a woman who's 5'1" and weighs 90 pounds is gonna burn way fewer calories than a man who's 6'2" and weighs 215 pounds. Like, those are vastly different. In fact, that 5'1" woman probably she definitely burns less than 1,000 calories a day. So if she's inactive, she'll burn around 1,000 calories a day. Any activity above and beyond just like lying there in the bed, that's called basal metabolic rate. Any activity above that, of course, bumps that number up, but she's not burning that many calories just existing in the world. And so, so calorie density comes into play because it's the way that we don't starve. We're not walking around hungry and angry and hangry, because we're getting enough to eat by choosing foods that are low in calorie density but are starchy, so they will fill us and sustain us.
And that makes perfect sense too. And I think one of the things just to remember, and because I'm not sure what diet she may have followed to lose the 30 pounds too. So I would just, out of curiosity, you don't have to put it in here, but think about that. And if it wasn't whole food plant-based, we don't need to talk about that. Just don't worry.
Well, I would love to know if she's willing, Nancy, if you're willing to put in what you've been doing, what you did to lose the 30 pounds. I don't need like a bunch of details. Just what did you eat?
Like,
you know,
did you do starch solution or
right? Have you been on the plant-based? Right, exactly. So cool.
So that could be interesting too.
Yeah.
The only thing, do you have enough time to mention the passive overconsumption? Because I know that was something you wanted to talk about, and it was very interesting to me when we had that conversation too. So I'll pass it back over.
Great. Okay. Well, guys, Kathy and I just had a little powwow this weekend, and one of the things we were talking about the passive overconsumption of calories, which is a set of principles that I learned from Jeff Novick, our dietitian through the McDougall program. And so he is brilliant. If any of you are familiar with him, if you're not familiar with him, you should definitely go online to our website, read his articles, go onto YouTube and see some recordings of his lectures. He's really wonderful. He is the total master of calorie density. Anybody out there in the world that you hear talking about calorie density has probably been impacted by Jeff Novick's understanding and explanation of calorie density. He is so good at explaining this stuff. But another thing that he's really good at explaining is passive overconsumption of calories, which is when there are little things here and there that you can be doing accidentally as you're eating a totally healthy, plant-based, even starch-centered diet, just like what we teach you to do. There are things that you could be inadvertently doing to cause yourself to overly consume calories on accident. It happens kind of very much in the background of what you're doing, all your health promoting things that you're doing. There are a few things in the background that can actually still sabotage your ability to lose weight, even when you're doing that. The main one that we talked about the other day, Kathy and I, when we got together, was we were talking about how seasonings and sauces and condiments can cause people, and sugar and salt can cause people to passively overconsume calories. It doesn't happen to everyone, but I'm going to give an illustration that hopefully will help us all understand what this is. So let's say I'm going to put, a big thing of Yukon Gold potatoes in my Instant Pot and steam them up. Okay. And we're all going to have a potato party together right now today. Wouldn't that be fun if we could do that? I would love it. So I'm going to set out for you everything on the countertop that you could possibly want to put on a potato that's still McDougall compliant. So I've got barbecue sauce, ketchup. I've got a homemade Southwest Chipotle, bean cowboy caviar type of thing. I've got a cheese sauce. I've got Mary's golden gravy, the fat-free one and the richer one, the one made with tahini. I've got all kinds of stuff out for you to top your potatoes, okay? And so we each get our plate and we get our potatoes. But let's say, for experiment's sake, we do half our plate with just plain potatoes and half our plate with potatoes, and then we get to choose our toppings, right? Well, first of all, which side of that plate are you more likely to want to eat? Now, of course, there are going to be people in the comments who are like, I'd rather have the plain potato. Okay, fabulous. You get a gold star, okay? You got your gold star. You earned it. But that is not most of our answer. Most of us want to top our potato with something to make it just a little more delicious. The problem is, if you're going for sauces and condiments and dressings and things like that are really good and make it extra delicious, you will for sure eat more of those potatoes, or you will most likely eat more of those potatoes. Okay, so just imagine, like for me, I'm a simple gal. I don't mind ketchup or barbecue sauce. So I really like barbecue sauce. So let's say I top my potatoes with barbecue sauce. I can eat a lot of potatoes with barbecue sauce on top. But what if somebody told me, nope, you can't even have any barbecue sauce. In fact, you can't have anything on it. It's only plain potatoes. I will still eat a plain potato to fill my stomach. No problem. I'll enjoy that to a degree. But when I'm done, I'm done. Like there's no extra plain potatoes going in, because when I'm done eating a plain potato, it's over. There's no negotiation. There's no like, oh, but I just still want it. It's like, no, I'm done. We all know what it's like to have something with a sauce or a dressing or seasonings that is so delicious that we're still shoving it in even when our stomach is full. That is the passive overconsumption of calories. It's you're enjoying that food so much for whatever reason that you have a hard time stopping when you're comfortably full. So this is a way that I see people get in trouble a lot. Although I will say, hardly ever do I have to tell them, well, then you can't use sauces and you can't use condiments and you can't use salt and you can't use sugar. Instead, we tell them use those things and condiment like serving sizes. So, when you use ketchup or mustard, we're not using a cup of ketchup. And if you are, that's not a condiment. That's way too much ketchup to be using. And it has a lot of sugar and, it does have calories. It matters when you use a cup of ketchup. It's not nothing. You use usually, if you're going to use ketchup, like a tablespoon or two at a time, that kind of thing. So that's what I would encourage you guys. If you have a sauce that you just love, you super love, I've been hearing so much about Kathy's oat cheese sauce. Like everybody talks about it. It's like all I hear about is Taylor Swift and Kathy's oat cheese sauce. Those are the only two topics. Those are the only two topics I hear anyone talk about ever. And so if you're going to use that sauce, it really will make you enjoy your food a lot, which is a wonderful thing. We want you to enjoy your food, but just make sure you're using it in reasonable quantities. Like you're not making the whole recipe and then dumping the whole recipe on your potato, like use it like a condiment, and make sure that you're keeping an eye on yourself and asking yourself, how often am I pushing past the point of fullness because I can't stop eating it because it tastes so good? So it's just more self-awareness.
I love that. And just to be, you said it, I'm just going to say it again, is that Stacy is not saying that you can't use condiments. She's not saying that if you're happy using the things that you're using now, you're happy with your progress, where you are on your health and weight journey, then you're good. So, yes. But if you're like, I've been eating whole food plant-based and I've been doing all the right things and I'm just gaining weight, that is one of the places you should look. And like, so you guys, some of you guys saw I had a big I ate all of them potatoes while Stacy was talking, so I'm very happy. But you can kind of see in my little cup here, the ring was about halfway. So it was, I didn't measure it, but it was probably between 2 to 3 tablespoons of the barbecue sauce I made for probably 3 or 4 cups of cut up small potatoes. I mean, it was not an insignificant amount of food. That was my brunch for the day. And to me, that was plenty, because I think also that's why sometimes I like to make my condiments, because I would rather have something that's really nice and flavorful. And if it's really bland, you may end up eating more of it, but that's still more calories too. But I was even hearing in another group I was in, someone was using a half a cup to a cup of balsamic vinegar a day. And my stomach wouldn't last through that. I don't, because like that would be too much acid. I'm too old. I'm too old to have that much vinegar in a day. But just to kind of get an idea of that, if it's something that's bothering you or you're feeling that. Nancy did do a follow-up, but I just wanted to put my spin on that so everyone don't hear, I can't have. It's just use it the way it's supposed to. And Chef AJ has a really funny saying, it's condiment responsibly. And I think because she's that's hilarious great. Anyhow. So Nancy was saying, going back to she lost 30 pounds. It was just going whole food plant-based, just general whole food plant-based. And I've been just trying to eat calorie-dense foods now. So she is trying to shift more to the starch solution, or maybe I should say to the Dr. McDougall way of thinking, since she's looking towards the maximum weight loss.
So that's exactly what happened to me. So I ate, I lost my first 30 pounds just eating really the regular McDougall diet ultimately, but I went whole foods plant-based first, then transitioned over quickly into McDougall way of eating. And then my last about 20 pounds came off when I went more maximum weight loss, because there came a point where the regular McDougall plan, my weight wasn't moving anymore. And looking back historically, I'd always gotten stuck at that weight. And I think it was because I was burning fewer calories, but I didn't know how to eat fewer calories, because I knew that if I ate less, I would be hungry, and I didn't want to be hungry. That's not sustained. You can't keep eating under your hunger drive and be able to sustain it. And so that's why I got stuck at that plateau or that, set point or whatever. And it wasn't until I started understanding the principles of calorie density and using the principles of maximum weight loss, which is based on calorie density, that I was able to lose the last 20 pounds.
That's awesome. Now, Raven, I know I have to come back and show you guys. Fergus is here.
Hi, Fergus. So cute.
He needs some attention.
Such a big boy.
He is. He's probably going to eat my barbecue. Nope. He's like, no barbecue sauce. He smelled it. He was not happy. So, Raven, speaking of hunger, Raven says, I don't get hunger pains. Will the reset give me those back? So, like, if she's doing kind of the Mary's Mini along with the group. And I would say that when I did, Cheryl and I both noticed when we were doing a very for us it was potato-centric, starch solution diet, when we did the 12-day program, it still took us 5 or 6 days to start feeling comfortable with our hunger cues. And if I am stressed out, and I know Raven has had a lot of stress this past year, a lot of big things happening. And I will say, even before my vacation, there were 2 days and I looked up, it was 4 o'clock and I hadn't eaten anything because I was stressing out about something and had my head down. So if you're not getting those hunger pains, do you have some helpful ideas about how you could start looking for them?
Well, hunger can feel different to different people. So, some people do get a real clear discomfort in their stomach or growling, like the loud growling type of thing. I think Jeremy referenced that. My stomach does that. It's so embarrassing. Like if you have like a dentist appointment or something and you go in and you haven't eaten, my stomach gets so loud. So anyway, so some of us have something that overt. But for some people, it's more subtle. It's things like strange, but you can get like aching sort of in your jaw a little bit, or your throat. You can sort of feel it in your throat some. For some people, they'll start to get sort of a mild headache, or they may just start feeling tired. A lot of people talk about that, like, oh, well, I don't get hungry, but I feel really tired. And I'm like, well, that's because you're powering down because you're out of calories. So your body's asking for more of its preferred fuel source, which is glucose, which is carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates is what your body wants to run on. So, anyway, so there's a lot of cues, different kinds of cues that people experience. And some of them, especially if you have spent any length of time in your life trying to ignore your hunger cues, which many of us have from dieting mindset, it is hard to get back in touch with them. So I would just say, be graceful with yourself. If something you think it might be hunger, go ahead and eat. If you got it wrong, it's not the end of the world, especially if you're choosing the McDougall foods, the whole natural plant foods. All that's going to happen, worst case scenario, if you eat when you're not actually hungry, is that you're just going to not get hungry for a little bit longer. It'll be a longer, interval before you need to eat again. So it's okay. Just trial and error, just keep practicing all the time. We're always practicing. No one of us is going to master this. I really believe that, because I've been doing this for 7 years and I still get it wrong sometimes. So, just practice it every day and have grace for yourself when you mess it up. It's okay. Just try again.
And would you say, if you're having trouble, and Cheryl and I did this for a while, even after the 12-day program, we just made sure we were eating when we got up. We'd pick a time, I think we said 1 or noon, I can't remember what time, and then we'd make sure we'd have dinner. So we would just make sure that these meal times were available to us, like clear for eating, instead of like, oh, now we're in the car, I wasn't hungry before we left. Like, someone even said, oh, do you have to eat every 4 hours when we first got up? And I'm like, no, but I am making that a part of my schedule right now. I don't do that at the moment, though. I might have to again, because when I work really hard, then I forget and I don't feel those feelings. But my experience with making it a timed event for a little while, it wasn't a negative one. Do you see anything that could come bad from going ahead and saying, I'm going to eat at 9, 1, and 5 for a while?
I do. I have to say, I think for someone like you, Kathy, and I don't think that most people are in the camp of like forgetting to eat. Usually when we're here, it's because we love to eat and we don't ever want to stop eating. But there are some, for sure, there are some like you that are super ultra busy, you've got your head down and you're doing stuff and you forget to eat. And then you run yourself into a problem where you get over hungry, and then it's very hard to make good choices. And in that instance, I can totally see how and why you instituted meal times to force yourself to stop and at least check in and go, am I hungry? Oh, look at that. I sure am. I'm going to eat. That's fabulous. Most people, though, are not in that camp. And what I really would like you to do actually is the opposite of that, in the sense that I want you to get your mind more in the mindset of, I can eat at any time. Anytime I'm hungry, I can eat. Because what's happened is, from diet culture, diet mindset, for so many years, for many of us, we have not believed that we can eat whenever we want. We've believed that we have 3 square meals or 1 square meal or 6 small meals or whatever's been taught us, and that we aren't supposed to really be putting our own needs into it. It's just what the diet says that we need to do. And we've been following that. So instead of timing and saying, I'm going to eat at 10, 1, 2, and 5 or whatever, I would like you, maybe you do set a timer for yourself, but you check in and go, am I hungry right now? If you're hungry, yes, of course, go ahead and eat, but you may not be hungry. So another thing that I see people run into a lot when they start eating this way is, especially if they have quite a bit of weight to lose, let's say 50 pounds or more, they will tell me, Stacy, I'm not hungry. Like I've lost my appetite and I'm not hungry. So I, was worried about that. So I went ahead and forced myself to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner yesterday, but I wasn't hungry really at any point. And I really think that that's a mistake because, for one thing, if you're trying to burn stored body fat, your body will do that. It will. Like if you're not eating, your body will burn your stored body fat. That's what we want. This is not me suggesting, yeah, just go ahead and don't eat, everybody. Don't eat. But it is me suggesting you can trust your body. If your body needs you to eat food, it will say, I'm hungry. And then you eat. You can wait on that. You can trust that. I think last time I was on here, someone said, I don't get hungry until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There's a reason for that. Do I know the exact reason why you don't get hungry till 4? No, I don't. But I trust it. I trust your body. I actually trust your body just as much as I trust my body because we're both humans and I know how humans work. And you can trust your body too. So if you don't get hungry till 4 and you eat at 4, fabulous. This is where I see people run into problems when they try to incorporate things like intermittent fasting or timed eating windows, is that they get on this kick. They're like, I'm going to eat from noon till 6 every day. That's my eating window. Well, what happens on Thursday when you wake up and you're hungry at 7 a.m.?
And I hate those. So I love everything you're saying. I'm going to switch back to both of us because we've got just a couple minutes left. I'm looking at the clock.
Yeah.
But I love the way you explain that because that's not my personal experience. Because like when I say we stopped and had these times, we check in. And pretty much because I didn't pay attention, I was like, dude, I'm really hungry. Like I'll work and I'll get up to get some water. And I'm like, I got to pee really bad. Like that also, and I'm like, run, yeah. No, not getting any water. And it's because when I'm focused, I shut out all those sensations. And that probably, and hopefully, is not a general experience. I would not wish that on anyone. But I do love the way you're talking about listening to your body. Because like if it was 1 o'clock and I wasn't hungry, I usually get pissy. So I get a little not nice. Cheryl lets me know I need to eat. So I can tell when Cheryl needs to eat because I'm like, oh, just take a deep breath, hand her a potato. It's all going to be okay. And Raven did come back and say exactly this. In my 20s, I started ignoring the cues and they went away. Now that she's 53, she wishes she had those instead of nausea and upper lip sweating. But the thing is that I want to put back is that you found your signal for now. And so while it is unpleasant, just still go ahead and do it. And it used to be, for me, if I worked in an office, I had to eat breakfast. Not because I was hungry, so I wouldn't snap at somebody. So I always would say, I'm eating breakfast for you, not for me. And if I work alone in my house, sometimes I wouldn't eat until like 1 o'clock because I didn't have to be nice to anybody.
Kathy, you are hilarious.
Don't you love me now? No, but it's just
I love you so much.
I like to get up and like literally, and we talked about this in my Zoom call. I know some people don't get work done in their pajamas, but I can be in my pajamas and work 14 hours today. Like I get up and I sit down at the computer and I do my stuff. And again, most people don't work the way I do. So I love the way you're talking about checking in. I thank you for giving other options for people that feel different ways to kind of check in with these things. And I think, it is a matter of us being told we shouldn't be hungry. We've eaten already. Well, you've already eaten. Why are you hungry again? Well, I don't know. My body says I'm hungry. And as you learn to get these signals, I'm noticing more sometimes I'm getting, is the signal, I would like to taste this? Or is my signal, I really need to eat right now? And I think that's really great. I'm pretty happy. I'd like it to be even better. I'd love it to be perfect. Probably never is, right? But Stacy, this was just amazing. This was, I say this every time probably, but I feel like maybe it's just we're in our groove. But you've just given so much information, and just know in the comments, I know you haven't seen all the things. Everybody's just so appreciative for all these gold nuggets you're leaving us with, and I hope you have the very best, because is today graduation day?
Today's graduation day. Yay, January McDougall program folks. I saw a couple of them in the comments. Hi.
Ooh,
I
congratulations, you
love
guys.
this group. Oh, they're just wonderful. And many of them are Kathy Hester enthusiasts. So thank you, Kathy, for giving them a place to come and have this community, and for exposing them to the McDougall program and sharing your experience. You and Cheryl sharing your experience has been so impactful for these people. And now they've come through. We're about to graduate them out, and they're all just so happy and have enjoyed the program so much. And it's so much thanks to you and Cheryl being so incredibly generous with sharing your experience. So thank you. And thank you for having me here to get to share a little more about the program too.
No, I think it's awesome, and it's so important, just because, if you can go through the McDougall program, I highly recommend it. If you are not able to afford it at this point, don't forget there's a lot of free information on drmcdougall.com, and in fact there's a whole little how to do it on your own, and there's groups out there, and you have the support of our community as well. But Stacy, thank you so much, and please give all the graduates big yays from me and Cheryl. We're so happy for them, and thank you for your generosity and for being here, and I can't wait till we set up times for next month.
Thank you. I can't either. Great to talk with you all. Everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for having me, Kathy. Have a great day. Tell Cheryl I said feel better soon.
I will. Bye, everybody. I'll talk to you real soon. And tomorrow, I think it's at 2, Dr. Stephanie Peacock's going to be on. So come hang out with us then, too. Bye.